Herman has done it again. Nicholas, a thing of beauty.
Hello and welcome to Chicago Fire Weekly, presented by the Private Bank, the official bank of your Chicago Fire. We are live at the Heineken Pub 97, as we are each and every week. Fred Hubner, along with Paul Tenorio, Frank Klopas, will be joined a little bit later on by Chicago Fire defender Jonathan Campbell. And guys, it's always more fun talking about a win than a loss. The Fire had dropped 6-7, go up to Montreal. They had lost up there 3-0. But Frank, come away with 3 points, and that's the objective.
No, guys, it's fantastic, you know. And the one thing I wanted to talk about is that I felt that the team going in, I think they played a very smart and disciplined game. I think, Paul, when you look at it, I think the adjustments that were made from the last game were evident. I think they did a very good job making it extremely difficult throughout the game for Piatti, and you can just see even in 15, 20 minutes in, you know, he wasn't involved. He dropped very deep to get the ball, but throughout 90 minutes, you know, you're going to contain him, but you can still see in the end that he had that opportunity, but I felt they did a very good job. And once that red card came, they sensed that momentum, the opportunity, and you can just see, I think they increased the energy level, the speed of play was faster, but they did it in the right way, in a disciplined way. They attacked the areas out wide and also centrally, because with the players that Montreal had, it was very difficult for them to recover quickly. They got a big goal, and they came back with a lot of confidence and a huge win for me.
Yeah, I mean, Frank, we talk about this all the time, but it's very difficult to win on the road in this league. And I think the teams that are the most successful on the road are those, you don't have to give up your ideal of how you want to play and the style you want to play, but you have to be pragmatic on the road. And sometimes that means you have to be organized defensively, you have to be very smart and limit the opposing team and their strengths, and then you look for your opportunities, whether that's through transition and counterattack, whether it's through set pieces, whatever it may be. That's how you're going to get the majority of results in this league. I think back to the game on the road in Columbus, and I was talking with Greg Berhalter on the field after the game, and that was his big observation about this Fire team is he understands that they want to play soccer, good soccer, keep the ball. But it's very difficult to do that for 90 minutes on the road and not open yourself up to transition moments, to the counter, to teams that have that home field energy. And like you said, I felt like in this game, they were very, very organized defensively. They tried to take Piatti out of the game. I thought Matt Polster did a very nice job. The midfield did a good job of limiting him. You're never going to remove him completely. And then, like you said, when they sensed that moment to go after the game to get a result, they did. And as a result, it's 3 points, 3 huge points.
3 huge points, and I felt that the guys came in. I know Jonathan Campbell came in. I thought he did a very good job, along with Polster. But I thought also Duty had a better game, because I think, you know, Piatti got frustrated, and then he was alternating. Sometimes he was coming in the middle, and then you're right. I think the midfielder were very conscious with his movement, and when he moved to the other side with Duty, the discipline was there that if Polster goes and Piatti was on that side with Duty, he wasn't going to go. But then the thing for me that changed, you know, I mean, I think, you know, Schweinsteiger was so smart in that game, you know, and then the moments where he pushed a little bit more forward and made a difference, he drew that red card because there was frustration there from the Montreal team. And then once the red card came, for me, I think that the energy level of the team, I think they stepped it up a bit. The movement of the ball was a lot quicker. They attacked the wide areas that we talked about, Paul. And then, you know, obviously the goal came through the middle. We'll see some of the highlights here.
Yeah, for the first time in about 4 weeks, we're anxious to see the highlights and eager to see the highlights as the Chicago Fire went up to Montreal last week. And early in the contest, a chance from a deflection that nearly gets in for the Chicago Fire, but a nice save.
And, you know, Fred and Paul, we always talk about it. Get that crosses in early from the wide area. The near post, when it's whipped in behind the defensive line, it's so dangerous.
Montreal, as we talked about, with the attack, the ball going just a little wide.
This was an early one. I think they got stretched a little bit. They found Mancuso, but Kapova had it covered there. This was that red card, and you can just see the frustration. You know, Schweinsteiger's first touch is very good. And then initially when you see that play, you know, I didn't get a really clear picture. You know, I think you can see Dolito going there because the VAR assistants, they look at it again and review it. And the second time that I saw it, it was clearly a red.
And this, to me, is where the Fire are at their best. Get the ball wide, get the fullbacks high up the field, and bring service into the box. Like you said, the central midfielders for Montreal have a lot of trouble tracking and covering ground when it's those two older guys. Schweinsteiger with the late run in the box and a very clean finish on a good ball from Matt Polster.
I still want to ask Polster. He goes by Lovitz and he gets his hands up. He's saying, "Come on, that's a foul. You can't stop me," you know. Or he wants a foul there. And
here late in the game, 80th minute, and I don't know how Piatti got this one off. It goes off the post.
well, you know what? We talked about they did a great job, but you know what? You're never going to stop him, you know, throughout the whole game. And he gets a ball there in the box. And once he comes inside, I think there's a threat of the ball. Don't touch him. And then, you know, he comes away, and thank God it hits the post.
Our guest from last week, Arturo Alvarez, thought he had one there in the waning moments of the game. He did not.
He's consistently had an impact when he's come on, though.
Another save by Matt Lamson right in the waning moments as the Fire come away with a 1-0 win. Schweinsteiger with the goal in the 59th minute. The lone goal the Fire needed for the victory. And like we talked about, a big win. Right now the Fire third in the East, third in all of Major League Soccer right now. And we will see how things go. They play the New York Red Bulls this week back home, and they've got some things to do at home. They want to try and get back in the win column after a couple of losses at Toyota Park, but they are at Toyota Park this coming Saturday. It's a 3 o'clock start, an afternoon game. Get on out there early. It is a Pediatric Cancer Awareness Day, 3 o'clock against the New York Red Bulls. Go to chicago-fire.com for tickets. The game also will be on Unimas if you can't get on out there. We come back, we'll talk with Chicago Fire defender Jonathan Campbell. It's Chicago Fire Weekly, presented by the Private Bank.
Heineken tastes perfect every single time, and that doesn't happen by accident. It takes 15 years to become a Heineken brewmaster, almost as long as it took me to master this look.
She came to meet a man. She found an angel. What's his name now?
Still practicing. It takes 15 years to become a Heineken brewmaster. There's more behind the star.
The heat will wear you out real quick. And we've been through some hot ones. It's very physical. You gotta take care of your body and stay hydrated because every moment matters. That's why I drink Advocare Rehydrate. I've got a job to do.
Oh, honey, it's time.
To go back to Lowe's? Yeah, this Valspar paint and primer in one really freed up the afternoon. Hey, how do you feel about tackling the kitchen?
Ooh, not great.
Okay, well, maybe we could finish up the basement then. I always wanted to get a pool table down there. I'm a bit of a shark.
And your wife is very much a pregnant chameleon.
Oh, what about a bar?
John.
Go, that time.
Yeah.
Clean paint starts here. Save time with Valspar's paint and primer in one interior paints exclusively at Lowe's.
Welcome back in Chicago Fire Weekly, presented by the Private Bank. Fred Hubner, Paul Tenorio, Frank Lopez, and the guy in the middle, probably with the best radio or TV voice here, Jonathan Campbell, Chicago Fire defender. Jonathan, thanks for coming in.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Were you going to ask him something about the beard? Because I know he cleaned it up.
can
When I
get to
saw
it
him at the
anytime you'd
airport in
like to.
Montreal the next day, I saw Jonathan. I was going to ask him today, what's going on with the beard? But he cleaned it up. It looks much better now. Much better, yes.
I shaved my beard just because I was intimidated. I couldn't have my beard sitting next to his beard, so I cleaned it off for today. But it'll be back for the winter for the sidelines.
Well, is there a story behind it, or just you like it?
Yeah, no real story behind it, but started in preseason, and I just thought I'd let it rage and keep it going. So every so often I clean it up, but sometimes
I think it's a good look for a center back. It's intimidating.
You gotta have the little nasty look a little bit, because you know what? If you take that off, Jonathan's always mine. He's the nicest kid. You're saying, if I'm a forward, I'm saying I'm not intimidated by this guy. So I think it's a good look. Keep it around.
Well, you had some guys to deal with against Montreal. You come away with the 1-0 win, dealing with Piatti. But talk about how important that win was for the team after dropping 4 in a row.
Yeah, I mean, won 4 in a row, but then also just the last game against them. So, I mean, to get our motivation back after that win, I think it was huge. And, I saw earlier 3 road wins. It's tough, So just to get that coming back at home for 2 games, it's an important part of the season to get that win.
Yeah, I look at what you guys have done so far this season. There's a lot of positive there. But you have to also think about this moment where you've lost 6 of 7 and you have lost 4 straight. The playoff race is getting tighter. Teams are getting closer to you. You're looking over your shoulder. You're seeing the Red Bulls creeping up. You're seeing these teams creeping up. Do you look at this win as being something that maybe just lets everyone take a deep breath and now you can kind of calmly refocus on the rest of the season, the playoff race?
Yeah, obviously you don't want to say it's like a sigh of relief or anything like that. But like I was saying, it's an important part of the season to get that win, because obviously things haven't been going well. To get that and to maybe get the ball rolling again and to change the momentum, it's a key part of the season to do it.
Jonathan, we were talking about it before this match because obviously the last games away when you guys were, playing in Columbus or even the last game there, I just think that the team played a little bit in a risky way, a little bit more open. You guys had a lot of the ball, but just the way you were very stretched on the field. And I think going into this match, there were a lot of tactical adjustments made. How did that play into this game? I think the discipline you guys had throughout 90 minutes was fantastic to come up with the 3 points. Can you talk a little bit about the adjustments into this match?
Yeah, and after every game, we would talk about it and try to say, were we a bit naive in this game, trying to keep it spreading too open? And I think, after that last game against them, we definitely thought, hey, look, we kept possession, but we didn't come away with 3 points. We lost 3-0 and we lost it early. So we thought, both of us were missing a few players, maybe sit in a little bit more. Don't let Mancuso and Piatti get behind us or running at us. So sit in a little bit more and then counter them. And then as the game wears along, then maybe try to keep more possession. But like you were saying earlier, once we got that red card, we kept the ball for the next 8 minutes really well. And once we got that goal, we made the decision to, come back in and preserve that win.
It seemed to me you guys, it was a team effort, a collective effort, especially with a guy like Piatti, because you made it extremely difficult for him. And I can just see the first 25 minutes in the game, he wasn't involved at all and dropping very deep. What was the game plan, especially with a guy like Piatti, to deny him the ball in dangerous areas of the field?
I think the main thing that it started with was when we had the ball to make sure someone was on them. Because that's the time, once they get it, they quickly get it to them. And it's before, the build up and they bring it up the field. So that was the key part, is right away having someone mark them. And then even in that game, if you notice, he switched sides.
Right.
He was looking to try to get on the ball and try to figure something out. But I think that was also a pivotal moment when he switched sides. We did a good job as well, denying him on that switch.
Early in the season when the team was on a roll, unbeaten in 11, you kind of took over like a closer role in baseball. You came on, the team would have a lead, and all of a sudden you'd come on and you'd play 5 in the back. How'd you adjust to that? How'd you enjoy doing that?
Yeah, I think we would have, kept doing that if we were winning games. But obviously when we're losing games, it, doesn't make as much sense. But I had to just adjust to it, mentally before the game, prepare, because that was my role at that time. And I liked it, It's the first time where usually a forward comes on with 20 minutes left and you're the one who's tired, and played 70 so far and they're fresh.
Yeah.
So having actually the fresh legs, it was awesome for me.
Being a pro athlete's not easy. You adjust to different roles. You played a lot of games as a starter last year. This year, you had that closer role. You've been waiting for this moment. Now you're stepping into the starting lineup. Mentally, how have you stayed focused this year and tried to be ready for this moment when it comes?
Yeah, this has been difficult for me in the fact that this is the first time that I haven't been starting for a team. And that's, through college, then last year. So, I had to adjust in that and just, it's been a learning curve for me. But I think mentally, just always being ready for games, and I was able to build Pano's trust as he put me in and kept doing well. So you just have to take your opportunities, and it's a little bit of timing.
It was Piatti last week. This coming week, it'll be another guy that can score goals. Bradley Wright Phillips will be the opponent. We will talk about the New York Red Bulls coming to Toyota Park. We come back. It's Chicago Fire Weekly, presented by the Private Bank.
Oh, you brought Butch.
Yeah.
He's looking at me right now, isn't he?
Yep.
Butch is like an old soul that just hates my guts.
You can never have too many faithful companions.
Introducing the all-new Crosstrek. Love is out there. Find it in a Subaru Crosstrek.
Here, in this league, we're not okay with strong. We go stronger. We don't settle for fast. We go faster. We don't want next. We want next level. Here, we go all out. Because we're all in. This is our league. And here, we don't go for good. We go for great.
It's time for the biggest sale of the year with the new Sleep Number 360 smart bed. It senses your every move and automatically adjusts on both sides to keep you effortlessly comfortable. And snoring? Does your bed do that? The new 360 smart bed is part of our biggest sale of the year where all beds are on sale. And right now, the Sleep Number Queen C2 mattress now only $6.99. Ends Sunday.
Now batting for the White Sox, center fielder number 34, Michael Bennett.
At point guard for the Chicago Bulls, number 6, Shannon Kelly.
At the Bulls Sox Academy, we give each kid one mission. Dream it, train it, be it.
Welcome back in Chicago Fire Weekly, presented by the Private Bank. We are joined here by Chicago Fire defender Jonathan Campbell, and I don't want you to give away any secrets because who knows if the Red Bulls are watching. But what are some of the main problems they pose? I know up top they got a guy that can score a few goals.
Yeah, you always have to watch for Bradley Wright Phillips. And I think with them, they like to press high, so I think it would be interesting to see, how they come at us away, or at our home. So that'll be something we have to feel out as the game goes. But, they're not afraid to possess it, but also when it's not on, just to get it long and then push everyone up.
No, I wanted to ask, going back to the question that Paul asked, second year in the league, you came last year, you played a lot of games, you got a lot of experience, and the opportunity to play in different roles.
Yeah.
You played with 5 in the back, you played with 4 in the back. At times we've seen you pushed up the field. So from a tactical standpoint, I think that you've seen different formations and you feel comfortable doing so. Where do you feel the second year in the league that you've grown in the position that you're playing, the things that you feel like you've improved on, and where you still need to continue to improve?
Yeah, I think in that first year, we didn't keep the ball very much. And so I think defensively it was fine. But I think this year we've kept the ball much better, and I think that's where my game, what I'm trying to improve is just to be able to keep that, find the right pass, and also find penetrating passes to get the offense started. Because if we want to play out of the back, we have to be confident and secure with those passes. So that's where I believe.
Okay.
Going away from soccer a little bit. I know you played at UNC. Not like it's like the Florida type temperature weather, but you come up to Chicago, and just following you on social media, it seems like you've really embraced the city and come to love living in Chicago. On that side of things, how has life been? How have you adjusted to being a pro athlete to living in Chicago?
Yeah, that's because last winter I avoided it and just went back to North Carolina. But this winter I'm going to try to stick around and actually embrace it. But I have loved the city. It's been great, and I just try to get out, explore it, do everything in Chicago. Sometimes it's just a good way to get your mind off of soccer and relax a little bit.
We know, obviously, you got teammates you can be friends with, but we see that you got another friend that you hang with all the time, your dog.
Yeah, my best friend.
And I saw his name, Leo. We asked our technical guy here. We thought maybe he named it after Leo. We weren't sure. You know, he's always around. So
No, I got Leo before I met Leo here. So.
Okay.
That's Jonathan. The picture before, I think that was him.
Okay.
Put it back. I'm telling you, man. I don't know.
You
There was
weren't
an
sure
imposter
without the beard, right?
Yeah, I've got a lot of pictures with him. Definitely go through the files with it.
And I know you've also wanted to become more active with the animal charities and shelters here in Chicago as well, yeah?
Yeah, I've tried to find ways just to get involved, and so I've reached out to 3 with Chicago Canine Rescue, Alive Rescue, and there was one other one that I recently reached out to.
Anti-Cruelty Society?
Yes, Anti-Cruelty Society. And so those 3 I'm looking forward to just reaching out with them and seeing with ways that I can help, also using the leverage of just Chicago Fire. So I'm kind of excited to start that up in this next month or so. It'll kind of build up.
Jonathan, are you a guy that also, when you go home away from the game, other than the coaches preparing you for matchups or guys that you're going to face, is you a guy that you go home and also do some extra research on them?
Oh yeah, I mean I've got their accounts to use for like the scouting and everything. So I do it here if we don't do it at practice. I usually watch just clips of the exact forward that I'm going to play against, because we watch the whole team. So I try to just get adjusted to it and see their style. So I do a lot of research at home.
As you mentioned, I mean, this team this year is so different than the team you came into last year, both in the personnel that's on the field and the style that they play.
Yeah.
And one guy who kind of has really personified that change is Bastian Schweinsteiger. And we've seen him simplify the game for a lot of the guys around him. When you're on the field, do you feel like he makes things easier for you as well in his ability to drop in between the center backs, to find the ball and maybe to ease a little bit of pressure when you're on the ball?
Yeah, just having him on the field allows everyone to be more confident in their passes. You can get him the ball under pressure, and he uses his body so well, and he's able to find that one person who's open that relieves the pressure. If they're coming at you, he's able to pick the long pass that then just cuts out their pressure, and next time they don't come as high. So it's been a big change, but it's been obviously very positive.
So when Schweinsteiger and McCarty are both yelling for the ball at the same time, a tough decision to make. I mean, they both are not shy about wanting the ball.
Yeah, I would probably go with Dax because you might catch a little more heat afterwards.
Well, now you got him back this week, so that's
Yep.
going to be a good thing going into this because the U.S. men's national game is over. We're going to talk about that later on, but he's a nice guy to have back in there. Janino was filling in, but they have him and Basti. That's going to be really good coming back home.
Oh yeah, Dax wouldn't miss this Red Bulls game, but I thought Janino played really well the last game, so it'll be interesting to see what they kind of go with moving forward from here.
When you look moving forward, I mean, you guys have helped solidify yourself again in the East. Playoffs look like a near certainty, but you have a lot still to play for. Home field advantage, potentially trying to get all the way up and catch NYCFC for that number 2 seed. What is the mentality and the task for these final 10 weeks or so of the season?
I think the biggest thing is going into playoffs confident and playing well, having some momentum, because if we make playoffs, that's great, but then if you're not playing well, that first game could be, a nightmare. So I think in these last couple weeks, we have to find that momentum again and the playing style that we want to go forward with, because that's what's going to matter.
Jonathan, thanks for jumping on in. Good luck this Saturday. Big home crowd, afternoon game, New York Red Bulls in town, and you're right. I can't wait. Dax loves playing against New York, so it should be fun. Thanks a lot. Jonathan Campbell, Chicago Fire defender, joining us here. We'll continue to talk about the Fire as they get ready for the New York Red Bulls. Game's coming up 3 o'clock this coming Saturday at Toyota Park. Get your tickets at chicago-fire.com. It's Pediatric Cancer Awareness Day. If for some bizarre reason you can't make it out to the stadium, you can catch the game on Unimash. You're watching Chicago Fire Weekly, presented by the Private Bank.
The blades of a combat chopper spin at 380 RPMs. Not even close to an Echo trimmer. Now that's shock and awe. Power on and on.
If you have recently suffered an injury or had surgery, let the experts at NovaCare Rehabilitation get you back to an active lifestyle. Our comprehensive programs deliver the highest level of physical therapy, hand therapy, sports medicine, and work health rehabilitation. Our highly skilled therapists develop individualized treatment plans to exceed your expectations. So, don't live in pain. To request an appointment today, visit NovaCare.com. NovaCare, the power of physical therapy.
Don't let pain knock you out of the ring. Our hand, wrist, and elbow experts are pioneers worldwide. You need us in your corner. Midwest Orthopedics at Rush. Make an appointment today. After our minimally invasive spine surgery, 80% of golfers maintained or improved their handicap. Be treated by the pros to play more like a pro. Midwest Orthopedics at Rush. Make an appointment today.
What's more powerful than the winds of a Cat 5 hurricane? An Echo backpack blower. So, yeah, it'll clear a path. Power on and on.
Welcome back in. Fire Field Vision, powered by NovaCare, as the Chicago Fire come back home after their 1-0 win over Montreal. Awaiting for them, a 3 o'clock start, the New York Red Bulls waiting. And guys, New York also a team, at this point in time, everyone's trying to get playoff ready. The Fire had that big win. They're third right now. New York's coming in. You know, this is a big game for them also.
Absolutely, and I think also New York is starting to play some of their best soccer. I thought over the last 5 or 6, 7 weeks, early on there were some struggles. I felt like they were trying to figure out what system they wanted to play. The midfield was trying to figure itself out a little bit. But it's okay to kind of go through those bumps in the first half of the season. The confidence of the team has definitely changed in the last few weeks. But when I look at this New York team, I think the problems that I see with this team are the same things we've seen over the last couple years with the Red Bulls team. They have a system they like to play, and they don't budge from that system. And it doesn't matter whether they're on the road or at home. And we talked about this in an earlier segment, Frank.
Yeah.
In this league, it's very difficult to go on the road and play your system and not adjust, not change, or to have something happen in a game, to go down a goal or go up a goal and not change. And when I look at this Red Bulls team, I think there are moments when they are very susceptible in transition on the counterattack because they like to push high in pressure. And if you can break out of that pressure with one pass, and Bastian Schweinsteiger and Dax McCarty are both very capable of making that pass, you can find space. And I think it's no coincidence that David Accam has found success against the Red Bulls in the past. I think it's no coincidence when I think back just 2 years ago when I was watching Orlando City play them, Carlos Rivas had a field day against the Red Bulls. It's because if you've got speed and you can get into open space, you can have an impact against the Red Bulls, and I think that's what this Fire team is going to have to look to do on Saturday.
Yeah, no, definitely, and we were talking about it. I was watching their last game against Dallas, and, you know, you go to Dallas and you get a point, you're happy with it, right? But, I mean, the way that it panned out, I mean, they were up 1-0. Dallas had a red card, and it's that risk that they keep taking. I think Pareja did a very smart move, moving Barrios on top with Urruti, and he brought a lot of pace. And they got caught twice in transition where it was 2v2 in the back. So the opportunity there against this team, you know they're going to press. You know they're going to press high. You have to be good with the ball. You got to be quick out of tight situation, especially in the middle. Anything in the middle, you got to be able to play quick and switch the point of attack. But there's definitely going to be opportunities on the break. You got to be good with the ball, and you got to make sure that you're ready to deal with this high pressing energy that they bring.
And Frank, we've talked about this before with this Red Bulls team, but it's not just that they press you when you're on the ball. They wait for the right moment, and then they try to close you down into the space and force the ball in one direction where they can win it in attack. You have to be able to play out of that pressure in a positive way. If you play backwards into more pressure, that's what their goal is. this team has to make sure, and guys like Basti and Dax especially, have to make sure that when they're getting pressured, they're looking for that guy that's checking back on a higher position that breaks that press completely and allows you to get out into space.
Yeah, no, they try to force you. I agree with you, Paul. You know, anytime the ball goes out on the side, in either side, I mean, then they close you down. They overload the side of the ball, and they try to win the ball in situations like that. If you're able to break out of that and switch the point of attack, you're going to find space. But then immediately, once they lose it, because of the high back line, they're very compact together and have the ability now to really press in numbers. You know, they try to do it. But the negative thing with that, as the game goes on, and this is where we talk with Paul, your ability to change. You know, I mean, as the game wears on, if one guy misses, doesn't do it right, and you break through that, and then there's spaces to attack in depth, which that's what happened in the last game. This is where this Fire team has had success with them in the past, and I think it's going to be the same situation come this Saturday.
Well, and the last 2 home games have not been good. I mean, the Chicago Fire were unbeaten at home, and then they lose to TFC and also to Montreal. They need to establish home field dominance again as the playoffs get closer.
Well, I think also they have to be cleaner on the ball. We saw some mistakes that were atypical of this team where they just weren't making clean passes on the ball. Their touches were off. The decision-making was too slow. Against this Red Bulls team, if you do that, if you have a poor touch under pressure or you make the wrong decision and try to play a ball that doesn't have the right pace on it in the middle of the park, they're going to pounce. And they've got players capable in transition of beating you 1v1, 1v2. Bradley Wright Phillips, he's so smart with the runs he makes into space. We saw the combination play on their goal against Dallas with Sasha Kleshin, a brilliant individual effort and a fantastic goal. You have to be clean. And I think at home, the last few games, especially that Minnesota game, there were moments where you're saying, what's the decision here? What are you thinking? And we didn't really have a lot of that in the first half of the season. So that's an area where they're just going to have to be cleaner. And it's not a tactical fix. Right. You know, it's a mental sharpness.
Yep, I agree.
The other thing, too, you look at it, and we're not so sure about the injuries. We're in the middle of the week. We're Wednesday. Still a couple days until Saturday. We saw Basti go out of the game. Duty went out of the game the other day. Now, Polster came back, and we had Brandon Vincent's ready to come back. So those are 2 big guys to have on each side. But we're not sure about Schweinsteiger. It's a wait and see.
It's a far different team when you have Vincent and Polster because a lot of the system is built around getting those fullbacks forward and into the attack. But Schweinsteiger has been such an impactful player this season.
No, definitely. For me, again, you look at the last game, for me, he's a difference maker. But also, it's good to get a guy like Dax back. Junior had a solid game, but I think the one guy that you need to get healthy because I think he can have an impact in his game is David Akam with his pace, the way they play. I think he can definitely be an X factor and a guy that can make a difference in a match like this.
And I think when Schweinsteiger early in the season, he was jumping up and helping up on the offense. I think we've seen a lot of that in the last 3 games, including the goal that he scored against Montreal. We come back, we'll take a closer look at the New York Red Bulls as they come to town for a 3 o'clock start this coming Saturday at Toyota Park. Get on out there. This is Chicago Fire Weekly, presented by the Private Bank.
Do you have too many bills but not enough money? Would you like one lower payment for all debt, little or no money down? I'm attorney Peter Francis Geraci. Our Chapter 13 plans stop collections and creditors in one day for as low as $95 every 2 weeks. Get rid of bill collectors and high car payments. Get one lower payment today. Call or click now.
When you need to be debt-free, call 1-800-CALL-PFG. That's 1-800-CALL-PFG.
Go inside the lives of Chicago's biggest sports stars, only on Inside Look, presented by Cadillac. Your questions answered.
They got this big because basketball got this big.
Idols revisited.
They bring the atmosphere and the energy that you need throughout the grind of the season.
And the stories behind the headlines revealed.
I realized so many reasons why I'm back home.
Catch a new interview every month with Inside Look on CSN. Visit csnchicago.com for listings.
Act now. Get Xfinity Internet for just $19.99 a month for 12 months. Experience speed at a great low price. All for $19.99 a month. Call 1-800-XFINITY and ask how you can get even more speed. Get more than 2 times the speed for just $10 more a month for 12 months. Or 7 times the speed for $20 more a month for 12 months. Compare that to AT&T, and you'll see why Xfinity delivers faster, more reliable internet. Call 1-800-XFINITY or go to Xfinity.com today.
Apt, Chicagoland's #1 shopping destination, has everything you need for the perfect home. We carry the largest selection of HD and Ultra HD televisions for the best picture. Create an incredible home audio experience with the finest brands and have Apt custom installers bring the entire experience to life. You just sit back and enjoy. For a better experience, professional installation, and of course, free delivery. Apt, pleasing people since 1936.
Welcome back in. Chicago Fire Weekly presented by the Private Bank. It is time for the Valspar Primer, brought to you by Valspar, the official paint of the Chicago Fire. The New York Red Bulls come a-calling this coming Saturday at 3 o'clock start at Toyota Park. And we talked a little bit about the offense. We'll talk more about it. But with Robles in the back, I mean, I know goalies can stand on their head. Goalies can make big stops. Robles has won many, many games for the New York Red Bulls over the years.
I think a lot of the best teams and managers out there, something kind of gets overlooked, something our friend Timmy likes to talk about all the time, but you start with a really good goalkeeper, and you're putting yourself in a pretty solid position to win some points that maybe otherwise you wouldn't win during the season. And we've seen that before with a lot of guys. Bill Hamid with DC United, how many games has he kept them in that they have no business being in? And I think one thing about Robles that's been so good for the Red Bulls, consistency. You know what you're going to get out of Luis Robles every single week, right, Frank?
He took the word out of my mouth because I was looking. You compared him with Hamid, and then Hamid, I think he doesn't have that consistency where Robles does, as more of an experienced guy, and I agree with Paul 100%. I mean, the goalkeeper can win you points in many games in the league, but when you look at this team, for me, I mean, you got to look from top to, you look in the back, yes, but then you go, Bradley Wright Phillips, 14 goals in the final third. Here's a guy that constantly, if he gets service, he's done it year after year after year. And then the other guy, for me, you really got to keep an eye on is Sasha Kleshtin. He's got so much quality in the final third. He's the one guy, wherever they are, once they get closer to the goal, he's the one guy they're going to look to find for him to make that final pass. He's got a lot of quality, scored a great goal, the last one. And then, obviously we talk about their high pressing. I mean, the energy that they bring, set pieces. They're always a team that's very good in set pieces. You see the trick plays that they come up with. They're a team that they're up there as far as the goals that they scored, and this is the goal against Dallas that Kleshtin scored. So, it's a team that has a lot of quality. You know what they're going to bring. Every game it's the same way. But I think for me, in the back, Paul, I think it's a little bit an area of concern for me. I think that's opportunities where I think that the Fire can take advantage of against a team like this.
Yeah, I mean, like we talked about, I think this is a Red Bulls team that's been figuring itself out a little bit more. I thought the struggles early in the year were directly related to the guy you mentioned as someone they want to get on the ball in the final third, that's Sasha Kleshtin. When they were adjusting without Dax McCarty early in the season, Sasha did such a good job of sitting in the pockets high up the field, and Dax's job was basically to get the ball and find him there. And when I spoke to Sasha last year, he said, I don't think people realize how much Dax helps me just stay high and be able to turn and run at guys. And early in the season, he was dropping deep to find the ball because no one was finding him, and he was getting disconnected from the game. As the season's worn on, I think he's been able to have that impact higher up the field. And you're right. I mean, the one thing we know about this Red Bulls team, speaking of consistency, Bradley Wright Phillips is going to score goals. Sasha Kleshtin is going to be dangerous. And they're going to try to throw wingers at you that just run all day. They haven't gotten as much production as they would like out of that position. But, again, defensively, I think they still lack some. Like you said, center back is a position they've been searching for a long time. And then those moments in transition are still the areas where you can beat this team. If you pick out the right pass in transition, you can beat this Red Bulls team. And the question is going to be, when you're playing at home, how much do you simply play a transition game versus trying to keep the ball as much as possible and put yourself in positions where you're opening up to transition going the other way?
Well, that's the thing from a tactical standpoint, because a lot of times at home you're playing and you feel like now you have to push the issue. You got to be on the front foot and come out and get the crowd into it. So it's going to be interesting to see how both teams approach this game, because if you get a calm on the field, there's definitely got to be that worry from the Red Bull side that, if we turn the ball over, the same thing that happened in Dallas is going to happen here, but that's the tactical matchup. It's going to be interesting to me, but for me, those are two key guys, Bradley Wright Phillips, Sasha Kleshtin. I think you got to make sure that you manage this game. It's hard to take them out of the game, but you constantly got to be aware over 90 minutes, because it just takes one play or 1 minute or one touch of the ball either of these guys really to have an impact and hurt you in a match.
Yeah, it's never easy when Bradley Wright Phillips is on the pitch. 3 o'clock start this weekend. It is a 3 o'clock start at Toyota Park. The Fire coming back home, trying to snap their 2-game home losing streak. Pediatric Cancer Awareness Day, 3 o'clock start against the Red Bulls. Get your tickets at chicago-fire.com/tickets, or you can catch the game on Unimas beginning at 3 o'clock. We come back, we'll take a look at the rest of Major League Soccer as we're getting close to that playoff run, the push to get into the postseason. You're watching Chicago Fire Weekly, presented by the Private Bank. Welcome back in. Chicago Fire Weekly, presented by the Private Bank. We are live at the Heineken Pub 97, as we are each and every week. The Fire getting ready to take on the New York Red Bulls this coming Saturday, a 3 o'clock start. As we take a look at the rest of Major League Soccer, and guys, Toronto FC, they were right there with the Fire, and then they just went on a run. They have a 9-point lead now in the East. NYCFC is second. The Fire with 44 points, third in the East, still the third best in Major League Soccer, but TFC's, they spread it out a little bit. They've showed some of their dominance, haven't they?
No, they have. I mean, they're playing at home. There's a big game this week. I mean, they're playing San Jose, and if you look at it, I mean, from San Jose standpoint, you have to go on the road if you're going to try to make a run now to get in the playoffs and try to find a way to get some points, but it's not easy. You're going there. And I know, Paul, you wrote about Atlanta with all the home games coming up. They have a difficult match also, playing Dallas, a team that hasn't won maybe in 7 games. And, I mean, you look, they're in 6th place right now in the West with 26 games at 37. Atlanta needs to win this match. I think both teams going into it, and they need points.
Yeah, I mean, this is, I always kind of chuckle when people talk to me about promotion relegation as if there's no competition, there's nothing to play for in MLS. There are a lot of teams that are fighting for playoff spots right now, and a lot of teams that have must-win games coming up. And we mentioned 2 of them right there that play each other. Dallas is in a very, very tight contest in the West, and Atlanta is trying to keep pace in the East. They have all these games in hand, and they need to win them. And speaking to Tata Martino today, I mean, he says, look, this is a challenge that no team has really had in recent memory. There's nothing to look at and say this is how we have the secret formula. We have 8 games in 25 days. All 8 games are on turf. We're not going to be able to train. We're just going to have to worry only about recovery. And so we need to just get our form back and use energy and talk to each other, because we have to have our ideas through talking, because we're not going to be able to train. So it's a very difficult challenge that Atlanta has upcoming. And I think, Fred, you mentioned Toronto FC. I've got a story coming out on Toronto on Friday. I sat down with Michael Bradley and Greg Vanney when they were here in Chicago, and Greg Vanney brought up the Golden State Warriors, and he said, listen, they felt like maybe they had expended all their energy trying to beat that Chicago Bulls record and ended up not winning a championship. And people were saying, do you look back on that and say we regret it? And maybe they did. Maybe they did regret a little bit focusing too much on that. Because that being said, we're going for everything this year. We want the Supporters Shield. We want to win MLS Cup, and we want to set the record for most points in an MLS season. So they are not going to let off the gas. They're going to play their starters in every single game. I'm very interested to see what happens if they lock down the Supporters Shield in October, mid-October. Do they shut down some of the starters to make sure they're healthy going into the playoffs, or because of the way that there's a break, are they going to have a natural chance to shut the guys down anyways? But I mean, this is some really interesting games coming up. The game here in Chicago is a huge one in the East. I mean, Chicago wins that, they're back into second place, fighting for second place. If Red Bulls win it, all of a sudden it's 44, 43, 42 in third, fourth, and fifth place. So it's a huge, huge game when it talk about the seeding in the East.
I think there's some exciting games because you're right. You talk about this game this week, and not also that it's a huge game from a standpoint of that, but also I think these are teams that you might face in the playoffs. So the opportunity now, I think the Fire team have always played well against the Red Bulls. Road at home, I think they've done extremely well. But you want to have the confidence knowing, you know what, that we can beat you, we can win this game at home. That's a massive game. NYFC against Portland, with the game in hand. That's a big game, but also now on the road, Montreal going against New England on turf. I mean, this becomes almost, New England, hot streak a little bit right now. They scored a lot of goals. A Montreal team coming in, deflated. They lost a big game at home, one that even if they got 1 point, would have been something for them. I know they're going to get some guys back, but it's never easy now to go, and it becomes almost a game where they got to get points playing against a red-hot team against a team that's coming off a very good performance on turf.
Well, listen, once this show is over, if you have MLS Live, turn it on. Sporting Kansas City's in a very big game. They've got a few games in hand in the West. They're trying to finish first in the West, first or second, get a seed locked up. By the way, their game on the weekend, Greg Berhalter knows he cannot afford to lose games at home.
Right.
They are in a very tight race with Montreal and Atlanta, and they have very few games left. That game at home against Sporting Kansas City for Greg Berhalter might be the biggest game of the season, because if they don't get 3 points in that game, it changes the expectations for the final games in the season for Columbus.
I agree with you. And we looked at them, at their schedule, and with the games that they play more than the rest of the teams, we said that every home game becomes almost a must-win for them right now. And there's some exciting games coming up. I mean, if you're a soccer fan, you're looking at this weekend and you're saying, I can't wait for it to come.
I mean, if you're Major League Soccer, you can't be happier. I mean, there is 6 points that separates first place from seventh place in the West, and there's 11 points that separates second place from seventh place in the East. Some really tight races, and I would even say, 6 points separating fourth place from seventh place, and that 6 points, by the way, includes a Columbus team that has 2, 3, and 4 games in hand on the other teams in the East. So these playoff races are going to go down to the wire this season, and like Frank said, a lot of good games to watch this weekend, but going forward in this league, there's going to be a lot at stake.
We talk about early in the season, we were surprised about a couple things. One team fired their coach, then there were T-shirts for their coach. RSL, 35 points. They're only 2 points out of a playoff spot.
Listen, they're a team that also has some games that they have played more games than other teams, but you have to be encouraged if you're in Salt Lake City. A very, very young team and a coach that's been able to get something out of them. He's a motivator, and I think that works well with a young group. And when you look at their financial situation, they've got some cap room to work with next year, some DP slots, some TAM slots. They can get better quickly.
Well, that's the thing. For me, I think they made a lot of progress with Petke coming in. I think he's changed something there. He's given opportunity to the younger players. I think it's a team for the future, but I think for me it's that they still have to add some quality pieces if they want to be a team next year that's going to be above that red line. That's just my opinion. I don't think they're making a good push, a positive push right now, but I think they're going to fall short this year.
We come back, we will talk about the U.S. men's national team. Not a really good week for them. They did come away with a point last night. We will talk about that. We come back. It's Frank Lopez, Paul Tenorio, me. I'm Fred Hubner. Don't forget the Fire this weekend. 3 o'clock start at Toyota Park against the New York Red Bulls. You're watching Chicago Fire Weekly, presented by the Private Bank.
Toyota's National Clearance Event is going on now. Get super low APR financing and great lease offers on the remaining 2017s. Save big on favorites like the reliable Camry, economical Corolla, adventurous RAV4, and more. During the final days of Toyota's National Clearance Event, get 0% APR for 72 months plus $1,000 bonus cash on Camry. Or lease a new 2017 Camry for $199 a month. But the deals end September 5th. Come in today and get yours before they're gone. Toyota, let's go places.
Mike and I are both veterans, both served in the Navy. I do outrank my husband, not just being in the military, but at home.
She thinks she's the boss. She only had me by 1 grade. We bought our first home together in 2010.
His family had used another insurance product, but I was like, I've had USAA for a while. Why don't we call and check the rates?
It was an instant savings, and I should have changed a long time ago.
There's no point in looking elsewhere, really. We're the Tennies, and we're USAA members for life.
USAA. Get your insurance quote today.
Address should be there, 1800 Ann Street. Hello?
Yeah, it's your driver. I'm on the
Go! What?
Those are no hostages!
Want to get away? Now you can with Southwest fares as low as $59 one way. Yes to low fares with nothing to hide. That's transparency.
Go inside the lives of Chicago's biggest sports stars, only on Inside Look, presented by Cadillac. Your questions answered.
They got this big because basketball got this big.
Idols revisited.
They bring the atmosphere and the energy that you need throughout the grind of the season.
And the stories behind the headlines revealed.
I realized so many reasons why I'm back home.
Catch a new interview every month with Inside Look on CSN. Visit csnchicago.com for listings.
Welcome back in Chicago Fire Weekly, presented by the Private Bank. Time to take a look at the U.S. men's national team. And I tweeted out on Friday night, if you see Paul Tenorio, tell him to wipe that smile off his face because he was excited when Costa Rica beat the U.S.
Are we going to talk about Costa Rica?
I heard that. And, you know, last night I was watching, you know, the Costa Rican game, you know, one was Mexico. And then late, I think Venegas had an opportunity where he hit the post. Anyway, I know he was ready to celebrate. Sure. He had the flag up on the window and everything. He was going to be driving with the flag around the streets.
I don't root for anyone because, look, when I was a kid, I knew I needed money from my mom and I needed money from my dad. So I cheered for Costa Rica when my dad was in the room. And when he walked out to get a beer, I cheer for USA, and they both give me allowance.
Listen,
you know?
The only thing I want to know, it's like the Costa Rican guys that play in the MLS. When they play here, you don't even see these guys. And then they go to the national team, and they're like world beaters here. What's going on? They don't want to show all their strength here, huh, Paul?
Well, you're rating with 3 goals in 2 games?
Urania has been fantastic for Costa Rica, and they needed him to be, with Joel Campbell out with the long-term injury. But that's not what we're here to talk about.
That's true.
I had to get your Costa Rica.
We're the U.S. here.
They beat the U.S. 2-0. And listen, I think if you want to take a takeaway out of that game about Costa Rica, and there is something valid here for fans of MLS, Major League Soccer has helped the Costa Rican national team improve. The players have come over here, and it has improved. I mean, it's a good league there. You know, you went down there. You had to play Saprissa and Alajuela.
Yes.
Good programs there. They do a good job developing talent. But I think MLS has helped to take some of that talent to the next level. And then you look at the guys who are overseas playing well in Europe as well, Keylor Navas being the biggest. And MLS is having an impact in CONCACAF, and it's not always a positive impact for the U.S.
That's what I was going to say. Not only Costa Rica, all of CONCACAF. You know, playing in a league here, playing in a better league, better environment, better coaching, better players and stuff, I think has helped, I think, all the countries now. And then you can just see it's evident. I mean, I think it becomes a little more difficult, even though I think that when you look at CONCACAF, I mean, when you know, the teams are there, and where the U.S. should be, I think that, for me, as hard as it is, the U.S. should be a team that's always going to qualify.
Well, it's weird because it seems like no matter where the U.S. schedules a game, there's a lot of fans from the other team. They were at New York Red Bulls Arena the other day. 2-0, Costa Rica comes away a win, and half the people writing about the game were saying that there were so many Costa Rican fans.
Maybe you pick a wrong venue. Go somewhere. I mean, don't go. I mean, you got to go where the U.S. fans. Take them to Columbus. Take them to other places. That's the thing. I mean, the fans. U.S. fans are there.
Right.
They travel. They'll be there. You don't have to go there and,
Listen,
they made
a mistake. They made a mistake. They picked a venue, Red Bull Arena, that has the largest concentration of Costa Rica fans outside of Costa Rica. And This is a country where you have to be aware of that. And you don't have to go, by the way, this was part of the Twitter conversation. You don't have to go to the whitest parts of the country to have a home field advantage. You could have played Costa Rica in Orlando or Miami or Dallas or LA, and you wouldn't have had that problem. Instead, you went to the New York metro area where there's 50,000 Costa Ricans, all of whom are trying to go see their country. And yes, you have a more vocal contingent there. It's about being smart with where you put the games, like you said. There's a reason you play Mexico in Columbus, because there are fewer Mexicans in Columbus than there are in LA or Dallas or Houston or any of these other places. And you don't go play El Salvador in DC at RFK because they'll put 40,000 people there. It's just, but all of that aside, you've got to look at the product on the field. And I think we're seeing a problem with this U.S. team where there's a disconnect between the center backs in the last couple games. I think there's a bit of a question about what the identity of this team is, how they want to play, who they want to have on the field. The quality wasn't good enough against Costa Rica, and in a very tough environment against Honduras, it was an ugly game, but they got the result. But I can promise you, Bruce Arena knows that there are some questions that need to be answered before Panama in Orlando in October and then a road trip to Trinidad, which won't be easy. Trinidad's got some good players, Kenwin Jones, Kevin Molino, Jovan Jones. They've got some good players.
No, I agree with you, Paul, and I think they're two different games. I expected, at least from Costa Rica, the U.S. being at home, that I think you would see a different team there, and then we didn't. You saw a team that had a lot of problems, especially in the back line, and then we knew going into Honduras, it was going to be a different game, a tactical game. I think it wasn't going to be a pretty game with the conditions and stuff like that. You still felt that the U.S. was going to come away, but there's a lot of issues and a lot of question marks that need to be answered. I agree with you. And then you were minutes away where I was looking and I'm saying, man, I mean, it could have been a different conversation that we were having today where, U.S. soccer as a whole would have been in trouble right now.
Okay, if you guys are coaches right now, who are your center backs for the next game against Panama?
My center
everybody's messed up a little bit. Cameron, Gonzalez, Reem, I mean, they all had some mistakes.
It's different for me to say from here, because we get to watch guys within the league, but then, how do they fare in training? How do they fare in this international matches? I look at the guys that played here. I like guys. Those guys, look, Matt Hedges is a good center back, I mean, within the league here. Gonzalez is a good center back. I think Cameron, it just for something, they're not gelling together. They haven't played. Maybe they're not in the best form, but they got to find a solution for sure.
Listen, I think the best center back pairing we've seen out of the U.S. in recent games has been Cameron and Brooks. Brooks is going to probably still be out in October. I think Matt Beasler has played the best as a left center back. Jeff Cameron has to play better. He's early in his season. He looked a little bit shaky. And I think Bruce Arena has to consider potentially playing that three-man backline that we've seen him play in different scenarios, five-man backline, whatever you want to call it. But they have to figure out the center backs they're going to go with going forward and develop a partnership because that's so important at that position. And I think that's a huge task for Bruce Arena.
That's the hard thing. You're going into, final stage right now, and then you really haven't identified, your two guys. You're mixing around, and I understand injuries play a part in this. But I agree with Paul. You got to find a pairing. Cameron, for me, was not good. I know he's much better than what he showed the other day, but that's an issue that needs to be addressed.
We're in the last minute, but is Areola shown enough to get a start? Bobby Wood, he scored the goal last night. Do you think they both get starts?
Look, I think that it's all about how you want to play. I think Paul Areola brings a lot off the bench. That's an important role, too. He came on against Honduras and brought the exact kind of energy you want, but if you're playing with wingers or you're playing with wingbacks, he's got to be in consideration. And one thing we talked about, Frank, Josie and Bobby together, maybe not the right chemistry for a forward pair.
I agree.
We got a couple weeks to worry about it as the U.S. men's national team will play October 6th in Orlando against Panama. Don't forget the Chicago Fire this coming Saturday, 3 o'clock at Toyota Park. Get on out there. Thanks for watching Chicago Fire Weekly, presented by the Private Bank, the official bank of your Chicago Fire.